Hey everyone, welcome to the only live webcast that brings you the passion, the power and the pulse of the mighty One New Zealand Warriors. This is Ruin Hammer Live. No stone left unturned as we dive deep into everything Warriors. Joining me as usual is my co-host and fellow Warriors Tragic, Warrior Roo. Rob, back for season 2025, Ruin Hammer season 6. Our first team list Tuesday. The Warriors ready to take on Vegas. How are you, mate? How excited are you, and how's your week been?
Mate, firstly, the week's been good. Hectic as usual, but starting to get into a bit of a groove with school and everything. Yeah, mate, footy's back. It's amazing. It's still, weirdly, it still feels a bit early, but it kind of is a bit early because we got the
February.
Vegas game.
It's still February.
Yeah, it's still summer technically. It hasn't even ticked over to autumn yet. So.
No.
Yeah, it's starting to feel real. Like as you said, the team list Tuesday coming along, and we're starting to get back into the sort of footy season feel. We're catching up this weekend on the Gold Coast for our traditional round one game viewing. Yeah, since 2021, every year we've watched round one together, whether it be at the stadium or on TV. So. Yeah, really looking forward to that. Yeah, the kids are looking forward to a bit of a mini getaway on the weekend as well. So it'd be good. It'd be good all round. But yeah, mate, footy, so excited. Yeah, we're all strapping into the roller coaster. That's all I can say because it's just like every other Warriors season. I have absolutely no idea how we're going to go. Absolutely no idea. You have a bit of a sort of a feeling about what may happen, but yeah, it's always whenever you're feeling the most confident, those are the biggest letdowns and vice versa. So who knows? But yeah, mate, most important thing is footy's back. So yeah, what about yourself? How have you been?
Mate, I've been good. Had a nice, relaxing weekend. For anyone that's based in New South Wales, Sydney, Newcastle, that kind of area, I spent the weekend at a wonderful place called Amaroo Escape, which is up past Gloucester, near the Barrington Tops National Park. Danny and I went up there for a weekend. Shout out to our good friend Julie DeSantos, who gave us that venue to source out. Basically, what it is, mate, it's a weekend escape. No phone service, no technology. You just immerse yourself in nature. We were quad biking and fishing and swimming in natural water holes and staying in a glamping tent and. Yeah, it was really good to get away from technology and social media and all that kind of stuff. So that was a great weekend. As you mentioned, I'm heading up to the Gold Coast this weekend, so it's kind of 2 weekends away in a row for me. Heading up tomorrow night, actually. Danny and I will leave early hours of Friday morning. We'll be on the Gold Coast on Friday, obviously catching up with you Saturday night for dinner, and then Sunday we'll be watching the game together. As you said, it's a tradition, a Ruin Hammer tradition, where we've watched round 1 2021 at Central Coast Stadium when we played the Titans. Round 1 2022, we ventured to Sunshine Coast to watch us play the Dragons. That was an experience and a half watching the game with Steve Price. 2023, we were at Josh Curran's parents' house at Helensvale there watching the game. Yeah. Last year, we caught up with Tukes, Mark Tukey and Rachel at Parkwood Tavern to watch the game. And this time around, we're just going to be slumming it at the Novotel Sundale Southport, watching the game together. So
it's hard life, yeah.
It is a hard life. It's not Vegas, but
no,
it's and yeah. Speaking of Vegas, mate, Warriors headed to Vegas last week. They've been there now, acclimatizing and what have you. I noticed we've got a lot of friends that have travelled over to Vegas. Richie Morgan from Warrior Nation, obviously leading a crew of people over there. Ken Wills has headed over there. Anthony Peake, I saw, took off over there. Paul Pitters on his way over there as well. And then I noticed Ricky Jenner, and then I noticed yesterday
Graham Lee and a lot of the crew from over in NZ have gone over as well.
I was going to say, I noticed yesterday it was the charter flight from New Zealand left with Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, Sean Johnson and Freddie Lussick on board as their hosts, I guess, on the trip over. So, obviously there's going to be a a mountain of support for the Warriors when they run out at Allegiant Stadium on Sunday morning, our time. Unfortunate. It was one of those things where obviously, if it had to come around maybe next year or the year after, it's something we probably could have done. But family-wise and money-wise, it just wasn't possible for us to be there this year. And we've kind of got this unwritten rule, haven't we, mate, where we try to attend games together.
Exactly.
You'll go to some
whenever and wherever we can.
Gold Coast games, Magic Round, that kind of thing. I'll head to a couple of games in Sydney this year, as you will to Southeast Queensland. But those kind of big events we try to get to together. Last year was case in point. We managed to get to New Zealand, watch the Dolphins game in New Zealand. Our first game as Roo and Hammer in New Zealand. My first game in New Zealand. Forever. Since the Warriors, forever. But the game this weekend, mate. Should we bring up the team list? Should we just get straight into it? Chat about our One New Zealand Warriors. Have a look at the team that Andrew Webster has named for round 1, 2025.
Absolutely.
I'll get you to go through that team, mate.
Yeah, Team List Tuesday came early for us. So the team that Webby named at fullback, Chance Nickel-Klukstar. On the wings, Tane Tuapiki and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. In the centres, Ali Leotawa, Adam Pompey. In the halves, Chanel Harris-Tavita and Luke Metcalf. Forward pack, front row of James Fisher-Harris, who is one captain, Wade Egan, Mitch Barnett, the other captain. Back row of Kurt Capewell, Barada Niokore, and Aaron Clark named in that starting 13 spot. On the interchange bench, Dylan Walker, Jackson Ford, Dimitri Vaimunga, and Leka Halasima. And on the extended reserve bench, we have Sam Healy, Tamare Martin, Eddie Iremia Tovea, and Fantiafoa and Ed Kozi. Mate, what were your thoughts? What were your initial thoughts when you saw that team come out?
The back five didn't surprise me. We were hoping with fingers crossed that Tane Tuapiki would get the nod over Ed Kozi. Nothing against Ed. Lovely bloke. He's
good friend of ours.
Yeah, good friend of ours. He's been on the show. But, does have a mistake in his game. Is a real confidence player. When his confidence down is when he starts making mistakes.
Score a try. Like, as you said, on his day, he is a blockbusting type winger. Can find the try line, he's got a little bit of that Manu Vatuvei in his game. Like when something goes bad, it just he spills all his lollies. So he is over there. It is in there with a chance. And look, to be honest, I would not be surprised if there is a late change. Webby likes to have as much as he can specialist players in those positions. So you never know, he may make a late change, but I was very glad to see Tane in the mix in there somewhere because after the sort of limited showings that he'd given last year, he has to be in there somewhere just for what he brings to the team.
We were echoing that all season last year. He had to be in the 17. I think he made a good fist of his opportunities when he played on the wing in both trials. He scored a double in that second trial. Roger also scored a double, so kind of cemented those two guys on the wing. The only fear I had would be that he was going to move Roger back to the centres and Ed Causey would get a wing spot. But I think Ali Lautea has to be there.
It had to be there.
Absolutely. To be there.
Superstar in that second trial.
And Adam Pompey pretty much played every game for us last year, was rock solid in defence. So, in the absence of Rocco Berry, it was probably a lock for that spot. Yep. The interesting one for me was I didn't even realise when I saw the team list that Tamari Martin had been overlooked for Chanel Harris-Tavita. I saw a double-barrelled name, and the Warriors do like a double-barrelled name in there.
You just glazed over it.
I did. I glazed over it. I didn't even realise it was Chanel Harris-Tavita that had been named ahead of Tamari Martin. Your thoughts on that? Because all I'm thinking is left-foot kicking game and defence is what got him the nod ahead of Tamari Martin. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would have had Tamari Martin in there. I know he's had some really quiet games, but last year he also had some really big games. So he like there was a string of games mid-season. I think started around that Magic Round game, and there was a game against the Cowboys, and then the game that we were at against the Dolphins, where he was strong in all of those matches, and he was a match winner on those days. And I just feel like Chanel has never by himself been a match-winning player. I feel that Chanel is more of a bits and pieces kind of player that's probably more suited to an interchange role. 14, come on, play a bit of dummy half. He can be halves cover, but I would never sort of have considered him to be a first choice half. Obviously, Webby thinks differently. We know that he can pull off a big hit, and he's a bit of a bigger body. But I just sort of found last year when he ran, I don't think he quite picked the right times to run the ball. And yeah, I just feel that Tamate Mutton is a bit more of a silky ball player. He probably doesn't have as big a boot as Chanel, but Tamate has a very good short kicking game as well. So for mine, I would have had Tamate Martin in there. I would have had Chanel, maybe not even on the bench, but he would. For me, he's more of a interchange candidate.
Yeah, Tamati Martin last season had more try assists than any other Warriors half. More than Sean Johnson, more than Chanel, more than Luke Metcalf. Luke Metcalf did have an injury interrupted season. I kind of agree with what you're saying there, mate. Like, as I said, the only thing I can think that he gets the nod over Tamati Martin is the fact that it gives us that left foot kicking game. But in the past, we've seen when he's not that dominant a half, he doesn't utilise his kicking game. That's one thing I was impressed with Metcalf in the trials was that he really took to the halfback role, to running the team around, utilising his kicking game.
He did struggle. Yeah, sorry, he did struggle a number of times, like when the game was on the line as well. Like he's probably not as clutch as some of the other halves. Like the number of times where he missed the field goal, or missed that kick next to the post. I know that wasn't solely his fault, didn't solely fall on his shoulders, but and I mean he's been around for about 5 years now. He made his debut in 2019, and I just feel, for whatever reason, I just don't feel like he's the right fit. But I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. I would love for him to go out and have a big game.
Very often you are proven wrong, which is good.
well, Jay Harris will be happy because he doesn't agree with me, and that's all right. Like, we don't.
How are you, Jay? Good to see you in the chat, mate.
Good to see you, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it's a solid backline though. Moving to our forward pack, mate. No surprises there. The co-captains, James Fisher-Harris and Mitch Barnett, both front rowers. Wade Egan at hooker. Capewell on an edge. I was a bit surprised to see Morata Niokore get the nod on the other edge. No Jacob Laban whatsoever in that squad, which kind of surprised me. I thought Laban, particularly with his game in the All-Stars, kind of cemented his role in that would have been that edge back rower. Morata Niokore, for me, he was a big name signing, came back to the Warriors last year, and then the one of his strengths when he was at Parramatta was his ability to run a great line and hit a hole and break that first line of defence. And last year, it seemed that every time he took the ball, he ran straight at the defender and was put on his back. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that he finds that form that he had at Parramatta. And then Aaron Clark at 13 to fill that void left by, the tireless workhorse that is and was Tohu Harris. Huge.
I'm happy enough with that.
Yeah, so am I. Huge shoes to fill, but I think Aaron Clark has really matured as a player in his time at the Gold Coast. Left the Warriors, went there as pretty much a hooker, and has developed his game and turned himself into a very versatile and strong middle forward. And then we've got Dylan Walker coming off the bench, Viamunga, Leka Halasima, who I'm fucking so happy to see those two guys on the bench. The interesting one for me is Jackson
Impact.
Ford. Jackson Ford, and we had this conversation yesterday. Jackson Ford for me is the kind of guy where he's an 80-minute toiler. He's a no frills kind of footy player. He just works similar to like what Michael Luck was like. It just works hard.
Yes.
Gets
very
through his
similar
job.
to Lucky. Yeah.
Doesn't really offer impact when he comes off the bench. And we saw last year when he did come off the bench, he tried too hard. If that's probably the words we could use, and had overzealous and had a mistake in his game. I find it odd. And I know Webby last year tried to turn him into a middle forward as well, and he's not a middle forward. He's an edge back rower. I can probably see Ford dropping off that bench and a guy like Sam Healy getting his debut. And I think with...
Yeah, I agree. Buzzman mentioned that earlier as well.
Yeah, I just think with Wade Egan's history of head knocks, his ability to bleed like Kevin Campion, injury, I think not carrying a specialist 9 in this game is probably a bad call. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a guy like Sam Healy come onto the bench for Jackson Ford. Like I said, I'm really hoping Vaiamunga and Halasima keep their spots on the bench because they're going to offer so much impact off that bench.
I get the feeling though that if he does come in, it will be one of Vaiamunga and Halasima to go.
Yeah,
I think Webby seems to really like Jacko, so I think he'd like to have him there somewhere in the mix. Who knows, that he might get elevated to start near Corey back to the bench or something like that.
Could be, yeah, that could be the change. But yeah, I'm really hoping because I thought Healy showed enough in his trial form to warrant getting his NRL debut.
Big raps on him, son of Mitch.
Well, I tipped him in one of my predictions for 2025 to make his NRL debut this year. So I'm on him. I'm hoping that's what happens because that'll be 2 ticks on my prediction so far because I've already got one with my prediction that Millie Boyle will still have no idea who the fuck Brad Inger is at the end of the season. And I've given myself a tick for that. Mate, the Raiders have named a very strong lineup here. What are your thoughts on the Raiders? Where do you think the key matchup are in this game and the dangers that the Raiders have for us on the field?
Dangers straight away. It's speed. Looking at that back line, like KO Weeks, Xavier Savage, who torched us last year in that game in Canberra. Ethan Strange has got a lot of toe for a half.
Yep.
Tomoko is quick and strong.
Yes.
So, Leitao is going to have to be good both sides of the ball because they're similar kind of players. And I think probably Tomoko's a little bit faster than Leitao. So he'll have his hands full. And Seb Chris has always been a solid first grader. I just look at their back line and I see a lot of speed. And that's where we kind of struggled last year. And their forward pack is always pretty strong. Corey Horsburgh, the new look Corey Horsburgh, have you seen him? He's ripped as the Caboolture snake. Dropped a lot of weight after being effectively told by old Sticky that he wasn't required anymore. He's done the work and got himself in good shape. And I mean, Tom Starling and Joseph Tuffney, that's a pretty solid front row. Hudson Young, if he plays, I don't know. He's been a little bit naughty this weekend. Him and Morgan Smithies. What have they been doing? Fighting over the top bunk or something like that. Getting kicked out of a hotel, and then Hudson Young having to face the media, which I know you were a little bit.
Mate, I'm pissed off about that. Ezra Mam, drives unlicensed, unregistered vehicle under the influence of drugs and alcohol, nearly kills the family, gets an $800 fine at court, and the NRL imposed ridiculous 10-game ban on him, which is only 1 game more than what they gave Mitch Pearce back when he simulated a sex act with a dog. You know what I mean? Mitch Pearce was made to front the media back then and apologise in tears. Ezra
Todd Carney got his contract torn up for the bubbler.
Ezra Mam, no, he hasn't been heard from all off season. These two blokes have a bit of a play fight in a lift because one of the rooms wasn't resi, so they were using blow up bats like you get at the Easter show, hitting each other. One of them knocked into the emergency stop button on the lift, and they've been evicted from the hotel. And then Hudson Young has to face the media and apologise. Like, fucking hell, seriously.
He doesn't play for the protected species that are the Broncos, who are
the race card. And the race card, he's got white skin, so we can't pick on Ezra Mann. Remember the hoo-ha last year when Monkeygate at the beginning of the season.
Well, that was Vegas last year, wasn't it? So
it was.
All happened in Vegas.
Yep.
Just go back to the Raiders team, and I mean, you got a pretty good forward pack if you can afford to have Josh Papali'i on your bench. So all round, like it, they may not be huge names, and they never are in the Raiders team. You always kind of look at the Raiders and go, they're a bit of a bits and pieces mixed bag. But on their day, they can beat anyone, and they're a little bit like us. Like some people are saying their squad is. These are probably two of the weakest squads in the competition, but I think these teams match up pretty evenly. I think this is going to be a very close game.
I think so too. I think you're spot on when you said their big danger is going to be speed. KO Weeks was outstanding for the Raiders last year at fullbacks. Xavier Savage, we know, is very, very fast. Ethan Strange was a revelation for the Raiders last year. He got that gig in the 6 jersey and pretty much made it his own. Jamal Fogarty's kicking game, probably only second to only Matt Burton with his towering bombs in the NRL. And then, as you said, you got a guy like Joseph Tarpany, Zach Hosking, Hudson Young. Hudson Young does know how to find the try line and does know how to find the try line against us. And as like you said, mate, you have a guy like Josh Papali'i coming off the bench, you've got a pretty strong forward pack. Jay Harris is saying, boys, how do you feel about Aaron Clark at 13? Might have missed that part of the chat. Mate, we're both saying, I said that, Aaron left us as a youngster, was pretty much a hooker in the lower grades and the juniors, went to the Gold Coast, really fought hard, made a name for himself at the Gold Coast, forced his way into their starting 17 every week, has really turned himself into a reliable middle forward. I think, it's a great choice for him to don that 13 jersey. It was either going to be him and Dylan Walker, and I just think we get more impact with Dylan Walker coming off the bench.
I agree. Aaron Clark can do a bit of ball playing as well, like what we would have had with Tohu, being a former hooker, and even before, I think he was a former half as well. So he's got a good passing game. He's a strong, nuggety little customer as well. So I think, he fits that 13 role perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacko's saying we really need to win this game and come back confidence to face harder opposition. I agree. And we got to buy early this year. The last 2 seasons, it's been like round 11 or round 12.
Limps to those buys.
Yeah, we're like a week or 2 after Magic Round. This year, we got a buy early in round 5. We got, I know we got the Raiders up first. I think we got the Tigers in round 4. Yeah, Manly round 2. It's a crucial start. I mean, every start of the season is crucial, but this is a really crucial start to the season. We get these 2 points, we get a week off, and then dive into the rest of our season. It's going to be a tough grind, I think, this game.
I can feel it already. It's going to be a nervous pacing around kind of game.
I was reading too in regards to the Raiders. They're not going to be playing games at GIO Stadium this year. GIO Stadium, they want an upgrade at GIO Stadium. They feel they've been overlooked. It's the nation's capital. That stadium is over 20-something years old or 30 years old. So I can remember when it was built. I went down to Canberra in '85 before the Raiders were playing there. Raiders were still playing out of Seaford Oval. It was actually an athletics track, and we had the 1985 World Cup there. And a bit of trivia for people, that's where the women's 400-meter world record was broken, and the 4x100-meter relay record. Now, that women's 400-meter world record in athletics still stands. It's the longest standing world record in track and field today, and that was set at Bruce Stadium, which was not called Bruce Stadium back then.
Bruce Stadium, I still call it that.
Yeah.
So where are they playing? So where are they going to play out of?
So they're going to take games to away venues. So no. So apparently they've already said that their home game against the Warriors they're going to take to New Zealand.
Good boys.
Home game against like the Cowboys, they'll take to the Cowboys. So they're sticking it to the Canberra government, and they're basically not going to be playing many home games at Bruce Stadium. They reckon the facilities are outdated.
So how are they going to sell any memberships, like home memberships?
Same way we did for 3 years.
Yeah, I suppose.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's a gamble that they're taking, trying to.
Sounds like a Ricky Stewart thing, eh? It sounds like he just went, "Oh, stop this."
So they are there this season, round 5, first game there. Okay, I don't know if they're going to play it there though. That's the thing. This is coming out in the Sydney media this week. Ricky was having a blow up. How much you read into Ricky's blow ups as truth or fiction? I don't know. So. Yeah. Well, Buzzman, if you're calling the Raiders for the wooden spoon now, I really hope we put a score on them because
we better.
We better, mate. We better. There was some signing news this week, mate. Morgan Harper, a guy who we affectionately called Reece Feldman. In his days at Manly with the longer Jerry curl look that he had. And if anyone doesn't know who Reece Feldman, this perm costs money, this yacht costs money. If anyone doesn't know who Reece Feldman is, go and watch Ben Stiller's, what movie was it, mate? Starsky and Hutch remake. Yeah.
When he was at Manly, did he also have the handlebar mo, or he had some sort of questionable facial hair as well? That's what it was. I think that's what Jay's referring to. Excited to see where the pool cleaner fits in this year.
For me, he fits in reserve grade. I'm not a massive fan of Morgan Harper. In our group chat, we got a little group chat, Rob, myself, Richie, and Brad from the standoff. We chat all things rugby league every day of the week, pretty much, in a private group chat that we got. I likened it to the signing of John O'Wright. And for those that know me well know my absolute disdain I have for
I was just going to say that's
John O'Wright. Close to the signing of John O'Wright, I don't see
Dane Nielsen or someone like that.
Look, I'm like you, mate. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I just think in our outside backs, I just think we've got better players ahead of him. And I mean, we've got Rocco Berry to come back.
He was solid still, though.
He was solid with Manly until it might have been against Parramatta, and Micah Sevo tore him to shreds, and he's never been the same since.
And no, it was a
Talakai.
Talakai. Yeah, gave him an absolute
ripped him to shed.
Yeah.
And I agree with Jacko. I hope it doesn't upset our younger players.
Yeah.
Because I think there's guys in that, like Moala Graham Taufa, who made his debut last year. We've got Rocco Berry still to come back. Obviously, Dallin fits into the mix when he comes back from injury. But yeah, there's some young guys coming through there, like Pasicala. I'm hoping that, and to be like, straight into the top 30. I know he's got a pedigree in NRL games. He's played 70 games or something.
64 games in first grade.
But I'm not a fan of the signing. It's only a 1-year deal.
It's low risk, and you can assume that the money wouldn't have been massive. So it's a pure depth signing. But yeah, I suppose when you look at it, specialist centres we're a bit thin in those stocks.
Yep.
And if we have any more injuries, then we've sort of got to look at bringing Moala Graham Taufa straight in there. And there's another injury, then who else is there? I mean, you plug the gap with second rowers or what have you. So I mean, he's he's an out and out sort of centre. It's true. He did have a pretty good run with Manly back in 2021, but it probably wasn't hard when you're in that team where Tommy Turbo is carving up and giving you all the time in the world, all the space to, he probably just had to catch the ball and pass, or catch the ball and fall over the line. Probably
fall over the line, off Cherry Evans and Tommy Turbo. So.
Yeah.
I agree with Jacko. He's a cup player. And he probably the Warriors should have saved their money, and he should have stayed at North Sydney and continued to play cup for North Sydney. Because he was in that Melbourne train and trial system, and then the Bears signed him and, released him for his opportunity at the Warriors. I'll be very surprised if we see him don a first grade jersey this year. And the week that he does, I'll be very disappointed.
Look, I reckon he'll get a game here and there. I mean, there's going to be injuries. There always is. It just depends how quickly Rocco Berry comes back, because he's still listed as indefinite, and the club keeps putting out press releases saying updates on some of the injured players, but his still says indefinite.
Yeah. Personally, mate, with our stock of outside edge back rowers, I'd rather use a guy like Capewell or Niokore in the centres if we got injuries that bad that it'd warrant bringing Morgan Harper into first grade. I'd rather sacrifice a Capewell out in the centres and bring a Laban or a Voamonga or a Halasima or a Jackson Ford into the starting 13. So, but am I clear with my disdain for Morgan Harper?
The first time I ever heard of him, and I told you this story yesterday, was when we played Manly at the Central Coast that time, and you go, you know who I'm really worried is going to carve us up? Morgan Harper. Never heard of the bloke, and I looked at him and I go, you reckon this bloke's going to carve us up? And we lost that game. That was a diabolical loss.
And let's remember, Manly were on a 4-game losing streak at the beginning of the 2021 season, and I was at Central Coast Stadium, and it was a game that we just couldn't put Manly away.
Yep.
And Rob messaged me, and he said,
"This is with about 20 to go."
He goes, "I can see, 20 to go." He goes, "I can see what's going to happen. Manly are going to score a try, and then Cherry Evans is going to kick a field goal." And that's exactly what happened. And thus was born the legend of Robert Anderson, who can put a mocker on a game just like that. T-Mac, I do. Yeah, Lecker in that game against the Bulldogs playing out in the centres as well. Yeah. Another one who could move out to the centres. I'd just rather see other guys get that opportunity to don the first grade jersey than a guy like Morgan Harper, who's come
a journeyman. Let's face it, a journeyman. Lifeline,
and a lifeline deal that is not has no real love for the club, if I can say that, and is only there for the paycheck basically, and to try and keep his career going. 1-year deal. He's showing no longevity or plans of longevity to stay there. Yeah, I'd just rather see other people get that opportunity. Again, am I clear with my disdain for the signing of Morgan Harper? Nothing against the guy, because let's be honest, we'll have him on in 6 weeks, and I'll be talking about how wonderful a guy
what a career you've had, Morgan. He had 64 fantastic games in first grade.
I'm really happy when you signed with the club. It was a great day.
Oh no, we're happy to be proved. Happy to be proved. Yep.
Absolutely, I am. But I think I'll be right in this one, and I know I've got Jacko's support. One of the things that this has kind of raised in conversation between yourself and me is our recruitment and signings over the past couple of seasons. You wanted to have a bit of a, should I say, rant about this?
I suppose in a way. It's just like you see across the fan base through social media and through the forums, everything. It's just like, why don't we sign this guy? Why don't we sign that guy? Or why did we miss out on that guy? Why can't we get, why can't we get the top players to the club and that sort of thing? And I think everyone just sort of has to realise the challenges that are involved in getting players to move to another country, especially if those players not from New Zealand, have no ties to New Zealand. I think I was saying to you, like outside of outside of Kiwis who want to come home, and let's face it, the ones that we've signed have probably been more towards the end of their career, want to come back to New Zealand, finish their careers. Guys that want a complete change of scenery. So it's maybe someone like a Mitch Barnett, who said that was one of the main reasons he came to the Warriors, wants to get out of his comfort zone. And sort of fringe first graders, and I would put someone like maybe Luke Metcalf in that category. When we signed him, he was just looking for an opportunity, and we gave him one, and he signed a sort of mid-term deal. Other than that, we're actually a pretty hard sell, a really hard sell, actually.
Yep.
So someone who's born and raised in Australia, all their families in Australia, there's a multitude of clubs that they can pick from Sydney. And now in Queensland, we've got 2 teams in Brisbane and the Gold Coast and that kind of thing. There's less incentive for these guys to leave. They usually sort of young Kiwis that come over to play in Australia, they bring their whole families over. Someone said the other day, "Oh, why don't we target Dean Mariner?" And I know that Dean Mariner, his whole family moved over to the Gold Coast, and they're settled. His old man is a pretty well known singer, and they've settled on the Gold Coast, and they got a whole life over here. And it's like there's no real incentive for them to go back unless we're offering big money and long-term contracts. It is actually, when you think about it, it's even harder when these guys have families, so young families. I know when Stephen Kearney was coaching us, he actually was over in New Zealand by himself because he was basically set up in Brisbane. So his wife and all his kids stayed in Brisbane, and he was over in New Zealand by himself. And there's been a few other players, I think, like that have just gone over to NZ while their families have stayed in Brisbane because it's the logistical challenges of uprooting a young family. Say they've only just started school, they got to go over to New Zealand. And then if they don't like it or whatever happens, or compassionate release, that old chestnut, then there's a lot of mucking around. So it is actually more of a challenge than I think a lot of people think. And we've got to for a guy like, for example, Kurt Capewell, he came over to the Warriors because we offered him a long-term contract. So we offered him 3 years, and it would have been on more money than the Broncos were going to give him or anyone else. So those are the incentives for like guys that have no ties to New Zealand. Okay, we'll go over. It'll be 3-4 years maybe, and that will have the kids a good attempt to sort of settle into school. And there's a lot more to it than just the monetary costs as well. There's the time costs, there's opportunity costs, there's all this sort of thing that people have to weigh up.
The monetary thing, though, we had this conversation with both Dave Curran when Josh was at the Warriors, and we also had the same conversation with Cameron George. The Warriors players are paid in New Zealand dollars too, not Australian dollars. So there's a difference in the breakup of how their contracts work, so forth. There's different tax in New Zealand than there is in Australia. So everything is completely different in the monetary side of things as well, which a lot of these guys have to get their heads around. And then, as you said, mate, the family thing's a big one. I remember during COVID, that's why we lost Cody Nikorima to the Dolphins, because during COVID, he was in Australia. His partner Bree was in New Zealand. They couldn't get out here, and he said he didn't want to go through that ever again. Jack Murchie, another one who left under those situations. Ewan Aitken left because of the same situations, and they're all, Aussie-based guys pretty much. Who joined the Warriors, and we're forever thankful for those guys that came to us during COVID. But now that we're back in New Zealand, it is a hard sell. And Cameron George always said it's very hard to encourage these guys to sign contracts when they fly them over and it's a wet Auckland day. It's grey sky, the clouds are touching the ground, it's wet and raining, or when they go there to play a game,
they fly in, fly out.
Game
they don't see any of it. They don't see what Auckland has to offer, and and people are talking about like Mulatalo and all these guys that have played for New Zealand and all this stuff, and it's like, don't forget, he moved over. He wanted to be a Queenslander, right? He moved over to Queensland. Yes. He moved over to Ipswich with his family when he was young, and there's been sometimes when people say they want to go home, it just means they want to go where their family is. So Mulatalo, when he's talking about home, he means Ipswich. He means Queensland. Jerome Hughes, remember, he was talking about wanting to go home to be close to his family. He's talking about Gold Coast. All these guys, like, they very
Yep.
rarely come over here by themselves.
No.
With all due
Brandon Smith,
respect, the traffic coming,
he was North
yeah.
Queensland.
I mean,
Yeah.
with all due respect, the traffic coming across the Tasman is typically sort of one way. So like they come over
Yep.
here and there's opportunities here for work and for their families while their son or nephew or whoever's playing footy. And
The beauty we have now, though, mate, is when all those guys made the trek across the Tasman to further their careers as young juniors and to get an opportunity, there was no clear pathways at the Warriors to enable them to come through. We now have, genuine pathways at the Warriors with our Harold Matts, reigning premiers in the Harold Matt competition. SG Ball, Jersey Flegg. We got the women's side coming in this year. We've got our reserve grade. So the Warriors are fielding 6 teams this season now, and in the past it's always only been reserve grade and first grade. So there's a genuine pathway now. A lot of these names that came to Australia as youngsters, and that these are kids now that will stay in New Zealand and come through the pathway system. And not all of them are going to play first grade, and not all of them are going to stay at the Warriors, but we've got a better opportunity of keeping them at the club now and identifying the talent young. I mean, could you imagine if we kept guys like Joey Manu and Jerome Hughes and,
so
Brandon
many
Smith,
guys that started off in the Warriors junior system, we just couldn't keep them. Remember, Sean Kenny Dowell was saying he was devastated when the Warriors cut him. Ben Teo has forever had a chip on his shoulder because the Warriors cut him as a junior. So, you absolutely can't keep everyone. RTS initially slipped through the net. Sonny Bill, I think, has also got a vendetta.
Peter Hiku.
Yeah, Peter Hiku. Yeah,
Peter Hiku.
He came back.
Got signed at Manly. Yep. Jacko had a question before. He was asking about the Tom Hazelton talk. Has that turned to shite?
Tom Matai.
Reports at the moment, he's reports at the moment is he's coming out in the media now saying he wants to stay as a one-club player. I don't know. Me too. I don't know if he was following the Matai rule where you go and tour the Warriors facilities to up your contract at your current club. Matai did that 3 times at Manly. So I don't know. Hazelton, he would have been a great acquisition, but I think again we've got some really good young forwards coming through our pathways.
It's just going to take a couple of years. They're probably 1 to 2 years away from fully blossoming. Like we're talking about the guys that debuted over the last couple of seasons. So, I guess like we all sort of have to be patient to benefit from the fruits of the labour, and we'll have to do the whole Penrith thing, and then struggle for a few years, and until all these guys come into first grade, and there you go. We'll just win those 4 or 5 premierships in a row there, no?
And that's the thing. That's exactly the thing. Like the blueprint that Penrith put out with their Pathways program that Gus Gould instigated, and it took a little bit of time, but all those guys that won premierships, the Crichtons, the Lineaus, the Nathan Clearys, the Jerome Luais, all those guys came through, Brian To'o, they all came through playing juniors together. Harold Matts, SG Ball, into the flag, into their reserve grade, into their first grade. And it took some time. And then look at the fruits of it. And you talk to a Penrith player now, Penrith supporter now, and see if they remember what it was like 5, 6, or 7 years ago when Penrith were wallowing down the bottom end of the table. They probably struggled to remember what that period was like. I look forward to, maybe 2020. I mean, every year we want to win the comp. Yeah. We're in the competition to win the comp. But I look forward to like a 2027, 2028, where a lot of these young kids coming through are coming into their prime. If we keep them all together, a good opportunity that's where we will start to see the rewards of the time that we've put in with the juniors coming through in our pathways.
Yes. Yeah, it's exciting, the potential. And Cam George has come out a number of times and said that yes, they will occasionally look to recruit from outside the club, but now they're sort of internally focused. And I think he's been on a few in the media and a few podcasts lately, sort of subtly kind of saying, look, everyone just needs to just have a little bit of patience. But yeah, then again, he's talking to a fan base of 30 odd years. So we've been pretty patient, but we got a little bit more patience in us.
Patience is our middle name. So Morgan Harper's signing, does that now put us at 28 or 29
well,
of our top 30?
He must be this speedy outside back that the Mole was reporting that we're interested in. Oh my god!
Great.
So I think that puts us at 29 because I think we're.
So we got one spot to fill, which we can do with our developmental players, training trial guys, that kind of thing.
I think so. Yeah. If anyone else knows exactly what number we're up to in our top 30, let us know. But yeah, I think we're at about 29. So yeah, we keep space open.
Yeah, mate. There's a couple of other games happening at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas on Sunday. We're the first game, aren't we?
Yeah, we're 10 a.m. Queensland time.
Kickoff in Queensland, 11 a.m. Sydney, and that would make it 1 p.m. New Zealand time.
1 p.m. NZ. Yes.
Yep. Okay. Following us, I think there's a women's international, Australia versus England. There's been a little bit of controversy surrounding all of that with Brad Donald stepping down from his role as coach. I don't have team lists or anything like that on that at this stage. Not that I'm trying to dispel the women's game. I think this will be a walkover for the Gillaroos, a full-strength Gillaroos. There's an English Super League game. Is it Warrington and
Wigan?
I
believe so. Brad's jumped on. He would know. Warrington and Wigan, Brad?
Is it Warrington and Wigan this weekend in Las Vegas? And then the big game, I guess, in terms of being at the last game at the stadium is the reigning premiers, the Penrith Panthers, taking on the Sharks, which I reckon will be a good game. I look at that Penrith side, I'm just amazed that they can continue to put out such a strong lineup with the amount of players that they lose year after year due to salary cap and guys walking away for other opportunities. Jack Cole has been named at 6, taking over the number 6 jersey that Jerome Luai has left vacant. I think everyone thought that Blaze Talangi, who was a bit of a revelation at the Eels last year, would get that number 6 jersey. I do understand he's had a bit of a injury over the off-season, might not be 100% fit at the moment. Luke Garner, named in the centres for the Panthers, is an interesting one. Did fill that role a few times in his time at the Tigers, but he's now taken on that role, which means Paul Alamotti goes to a wing. I thought maybe both Jesse and Casey McLean might get the wing spots for the Panthers. Jesse's on one in the absence of Brian To'o, but they've opted for Jesse and Paul Alamotti and using a edge back rower in the centres. And Isaiah Papali'i, their big off-season buy coming off the bench, which for anyone that plays fantasy or Supercoach was a bit of a kick in the teeth, and had a lot of people that had him in their side scrambling to trade him out before the weekend and get somebody else in.
Which Isaiah Papali'i are Penrith getting, though? That's the question.
Well,
the Warriors Tigers version?
I hope so. I hope so. I'm sure the Panthers are hoping they're getting the Parramatta version. And then for the Sharkies, Sam Stonestreet's been named on the wing in place of the injured Sione Katoa. That's a position that Stonestreet can make his own with Katoa having surgery. He's going to be out for
season.
Yeah, is it season?
It's months anyway.
Yeah,
2 or 3 months.
So, but no other surprises for the Sharks. Dicko Hines, a halfback. Braden Trindle named at 6. Mate, who do you pick in this one?
Oh,
Actually,
I'm
I
gonna
didn't
go
get
with
your
the
tip.
Sharks.
I didn't get your tip. Who do you tip in the Warriors-Raiders game? What's your tip?
Oh, jeez.
Are
Look,
you going to say a nervous two like you do every game?
Nah, don't be silly, mate.
Okay.
I'm going to say Warriors and a very nervous 4-point win.
4 points.
We're going to cling. I can see us defending our line for like the last 10 minutes. I think whatever side wins whichever side wins will get out to say like a 10, 12 point lead. Then the game will get really close. It'll be one of those games. It'll be. I just feel. Yeah, I can just feel a grind. And the Ricky's Raiders love that kind of thing. But just hoping that we have a little bit more flair, and I think we might just get the job done. So I'm gonna stick to a Warriors 4-point win.
I'm going to say Vaiamunga and Leka Halasima to be game changers when they come on. Ali Leatua to be outstanding, and I'm going to predict a Warriors 10-point victory.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'd take that.
Yep.
Take that any day of the week. Any kind of win. We just need to win. This is a number of times that we get off to really bad starts to the year and just puts us behind the pack. So yeah, like we were saying earlier when Jacko was saying, whatever happens, we just need to find a way to win.
What about the Panthers Sharks game? Who are you tipping?
Look, I think the Sharks. I'm going to stick with them. They usually start the year pretty well. They're pretty well known for that. What are the March, April premiers?
Yeah.
March, April, May premiers.
That used to be the Dragons.
Yeah, it used to be.
The Dragons.
Mary McGregor's Dragons.
Yeah. The April premiers. Yeah.
they'd be on top of the table until about May, and then it'd start going wrong for them. Yeah, I just think the Sharks, like last year, they got off to a really good start, and that they've looked pretty good in the trials as well. So I think the Sharks by about 8. I think it'll be close. Like Penrith won't go away. We know that.
No.
But you'd have to be crazy to write Penrith off this year. Like there's no way that anyone can sit there and say they can't win a 5th straight premiership because, mate, they've won. Like last year, no one thought they could do it, and they got 4 in a row.
I'll say it now. They can't. I'll say it now. They can't win a 5th straight premiership. There you go. I don't think they can. Okay. I don't think. I
picked them to not. I picked them to not win, but I think they'll at least be in the prelims.
I think they'll be top 4, but I don't think they have. It's strange saying that. I don't think they have the depth to go on and win a 5th straight premiership. I think the Sharks. I think Adam Fanua-Blake is going to have a massive game this weekend. He's first in Sharks colours. He'll be out to want to assert his authority over a guy like Moses Leota. Nico Hines, I think, will have a outstanding game. I'm going to say the Sharks by maybe 6 or 8. I don't know. I like Nathan Cleary. You haven't seen him coming back from a bit of off-season surgery or injury, and he hasn't trialled. So
he's been around long enough. He'll just come back and plug straight back into that system, the cyborg.
He will. It's still a hard ask to go 80 minutes when you haven't gone 80 minutes for a while.
I like Buzzman's vibe. Warriors by 20. Yeah,
massive, huge.
I'll take that. And yes, you are right, Brad. Last week I predicted a disappointing Warriors loss. Brad, that's called reverse psychology. So that's why I say these kind of ridiculous things, because that would never happen. There's no way we would get a disappointing loss in Vegas. But I don't know. We just really have to win this to get off to a good start this year. So I thought, all right, I'll stick with the boys. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? 2023? We had a win to start off the season. Before that was 2021, wasn't it, when we beat the Titans?
Yeah, we beat the Titans on the Gold Coast.
So we're due. Every second year we have a win. So every second year we have a win to start the season.
Yeah. So, like, I just remember the nature of that win against the Knights. It wasn't pretty, but we showed a lot of characteristics that we took with us through the rest of the season, like the resilience and defence that night. We kind of set the tone in that first round game, and it'd be great to do something like that, like reintroduce a bit of steel in our line and we really need that resilience to be able to repel those back-to-back sets, because we absolutely wilted last year whenever they repeat set of 6, and it was a tough watch, us defending our line. So if we can get that back into our game, I'm fairly confident that we'll have a decent season. And I don't know if Hammer is frozen up there or is me, but we'll keep going. So the Vegas games done. So we have the Warriors game first up at 10 o'clock. Then we have the women's game after that. Then we have Warrington versus Wigan. There you are. I didn't know whether you dropped out or I'd frozen up. So I'm just like, I'll just keep talking. I'm just saying the schedule. So we got the Warriors first up, then we got the women's game, then we've got the Warrington versus Wigan, and the match of the day being the Panthers versus the Sharks, and that's your Vegas done and dusted, and that's round, what is it, 0.5?
Yeah,
done and dusted, and then the rest of the games will follow on the next Thursday. So
All right, well, that about wraps it up for the night, mate. Do you want to tell everyone how they can find us on Patreon and or Redbubble?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do want to show your support for what we do here at Ruin Hammer, you consider becoming a Patreon member. The link is on the screen there, and that can be as small as $3 a month, or if you would like to become a gold Patreon member, like a few of our faithful have, that will entitle you some merchandise. So some of our original Ruin Hammer merchandise from our Redbubble store. Get jump onto Patreon and have a look, and a massive shout out to all our Patreon supporters. Some of you guys have been with us for 5 years, and we greatly appreciate your support, and everything that does come in through Patreon goes straight back into the show. Another way that you can show your support is to go into our Redbubble store. So make sure you go to the Ruin Hammer Redbubble store, redbubble.com/people/ru-and-hammer/shop. And you can go in there and check out all the range of tees that we have available there. Grab yourself some new threads for the start of the season, for the Vegas weekend, for whatever you want to do. They've always got specials there on Redbubble, 20% off all the time on there. So make sure you get in there, have a look. If there's something that tickles your fancy, grab yourself some threads, and everything, again, all the commission that we do make from any of those sales, again, comes back into the show to pay for our streaming licenses and all other costs that are involved with putting Ruin Hammer together.
Absolutely.
Thanks to everyone that has shirts. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Absolutely. That wraps.
Well, I think Hammer's frozen up again, but that does wrap up everything up for this week's show. Make sure you guys, I guess just enjoy the first weekend of footy. It's back, and those of you that are in Vegas, have an awesome time over there. We can't wait to hear about all the goings on there. We're going to try and get Richie Morgan on perhaps next week to tell us firsthand about his Vegas experience, which will be awesome. So stay tuned for that. Until then, up the wires.